We haven't seen Cowboys superstar defensive end Micah Parsons at OTAs since May 19th, but that isn't surprising. He's waiting for a massive contract extension, which could make him the highest paid non-QB in the league. And with that, we bring in CBS Sports NFL writer Garrett Podell, who covers the Cowboys for us, and he's been at OTAs all week. And Garrett, this is not the first time a star Cowboys player has not been present at OTAs because of contract matters. What exactly is the latest, though, on the Cowboys and the former Penn State star perhaps coming closer to agreeing to a contract?
That's a great question, Chris, and that's a multi-layered answer because Micah Parsons, he would like to be at everything for the Cowboys offseason program, but he watched CeeDee Lamb have to hold out for his second NFL contract this past year, and that's what it took for him to get paid, and it might take the same thing for Micah Parsons. Now, to be clear, Micah Parsons is not holding out. As you mentioned, he did show up to the first OTA practice on May 19th and had lunch with head coach Brian Schottenheimer that day. I've been at OTAs, like you said, every media access they've allowed. Tuesday, the second OTA last week, he was not there, but he's been watching film and keeping up with coaches. I was there yesterday. He was not present again. Head coach Brian Schottenheimer told me he actually ran into Micah Parsons in the airport last weekend. They were both going to different locations for quick vacation getaways, but he reiterated OTAs is voluntary. And to refresh people, Micah Parsons in the past has liked to train on his own before showing up for mandatory minicamp and training camp. And to me, we're probably not going to see any movement on the Micah Parsons contract situation probably until July when it really pushes up against training camp, because Micah Parsons has repeatedly said, he told me just before the start of the NFL draft, that he has urgency to get this deal done and wants to get it done so that he doesn't have to hold out of training camp, because there's a new DC in town for the third consecutive season. Matt Eberflus coming in for the departed Mike Zimmer, who replaced Dan Quinn when he left to go to Washington to be their new head coach. So Micah knows the importance of being there. Both Brian Schottenheimer and when I talked to defensive tackle Osa Odigizua yesterday, they talked about how Micah is a leader on this defense. And so it may take him continuing to apply a little bit of pressure on Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones to get this deal done before training camp. Now, he's been at every mandatory minicamp the last years. Then that will be really illuminating in a couple weeks if he's not there. But he's got an amicable relationship with Brian Schottenheimer, and we're still waiting here in Dallas.
Yeah, we'll just see matter if it's going to come closer, right, to training camp, or if a deal gets done in the next few weeks or what so. Now, staying on topic with the defense, they had one of the worst groups last season, but what have been your early takeaways from their secondary group, specifically in OTAs?
That's a great question, because the secondary is probably one of the positions that has the most question marks. You have All-Pro from 2023, Deron Bland. He's back. He's healthy. He's out there. He's in a contract year. He's been rotating at outside corner and nickel, which is what he started out as after he was a fifth-round pick in 2022, replacing an injured Jordan Lewis. And that's because Trayvon Diggs, he's out with a knee injury and is rehabbing that. And then you also have another guy working back from injury in Kalen Carson. He's healthy, but a young guy who struggled, only played 6 games last year. They traded for Buffalo Bills corner Kaiir Elam, and he's someone who's really stood out to the coaching staff. He was a 2022 first-round pick from Buffalo. Dallas traded for him this offseason. And when I asked Coach Brian Schottenheimer about how do you feel comfort-wise with your secondary, he mentioned Elam as someone who's picked up the playbook really well and has tested in terms of the speed, the GPS tracking chips they have on the players, shoulder pads to see their heart rate and things like that. Elam's blown everyone away running 23.5, 23.6 miles an hour at times. And I asked Elam about this, and he said, yeah, I'm the fastest on the team. Now, that's a stretch considering All-Pro returner Kavontae Turpin is on this team, but Elam is feeling very comfortable, and he's had a couple nice pass breakups in both of the OTA practices that have been open to media thus far, but that's definitely going to be an area to watch going forward, because with Diggs working his way back and then also third-round rookie Siobhan Revel, He's probably going to start on the PUP list in training camp, but they think he'll be back in the middle of training camp, the rookie out of East Carolina. There's opportunities for guys to really make a case for themselves at the corner position here.
Right. You know, if somebody goes down, you never want to see that. But in that moment, if you're a guy second on the depth chart or third, you have to seize that moment because you never know when you're going to get it back. Now, Dallas fans, Garrett, hope that George Pickens can help enhance their offense at wideout and be great alongside CeeDee Lamb. What have been your impressions of him and just the rest of the offense?
Obviously, when people think of George Pickens, right, they think of the guy who left the Pittsburgh Steelers and someone who Mike Tomlin told in a press conference to grow up after he got called for 2 personal foul penalties in a December win against the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, he's been nothing but a veteran and a true adult since coming to Dallas. When talking to people down here, Brian Schottenheimer has noted he takes copious notes in the meeting rooms, asks a lot of questions, has been picking up the scheme incredibly quickly, and he's someone who could really make a difference for Dallas because of his downfield ability. His 16.7 yards per catch over the last 2 seasons among players with at least 110 catches in that span. That's the highest average in the NFL. And it's interesting. CeeDee Lamb's kind of taking him under his wing. CeeDee told me it's kind of similar to when I was a rookie on this team and 5-time Pro Bowl wide receiver Mari Cooper was kind of showing me the ropes and giving him different parts of his secret sauce. And George Pickens has told me he's learned a lot from Lamb about intermediate passing routes. And you're already kind of seeing the results and how excited Lamb is to have a true number 2 next to him, because Brian Schottenheimer told me, this wasn't in the media viewing, but he said there was a pass play in the red zone where Lamb was kind of underneath and Pickens was running a post over the middle, and Lamb had his hand up thinking, oh yeah, the ball's going to come to me. But the ball's thrown. He looks up and there's Pickens hauling it in, toe tapping in the back of the end zone for a touchdown. And Lamb lifted up his hands and screamed, yes, in excitement, just almost like a weight was lifted off his shoulders, because there's another massive target in the red zone who can take some pressure off of him. And that's something Lamb certainly welcomes. It's not all about the stats here in Dallas. Lamb loves this help that he's already seen from Pickens early on.
Right, because Lamb, he got his money. Now it's like, yo, it's time to win. And George Pickens, like you said, he takes that pressure off him. So very interesting to see what this Cowboys offense is going to look like when it comes to week 1 and on. Garrett Podell, we appreciate the time as always, man.
Thanks for having me, Chris.
Anytime, and here are the odds to win the NFC East, according to FanDuel Sportsbook. The Eagles, reigning champs, favored at 140. Then it's the Commanders, who surprised everybody last year, getting to the NFC Conference Championship, followed by the Cowboys at plus 500. And then the Giants way down there in the odds at plus 3,000.